March 9th, 1945, 12:15 a.m. The skies above Tokyo hum with an unnatural thunder, a low rumble that vibrates through the wooden beams of sleeping homes. Winds whip through the narrow streets of Shitamachi, carrying the faint scent of cherry blossoms mixed with the acrid tang of factory smoke. Families huddle in their tatami-floored rooms, oblivious to the armada descending from the stars. You can almost hear the collective breath of a city on the brink, unaware that hell is about to rain down. High above, in the pressurized cockpit of a B-29 Superfortress named Dauntless Dottie, Major Robert Morgan grips the controls, his eyes scanning the instrument panel glowing faintly in the dark. The massive bomber, a silver behemoth with wings spanning 141 feet, slices through the night at 500 feet, dangerously low for such a giant. Behind him, the bomb bay doors creak open, revealing clusters of M69 incendiaries, each one a promise of devastation. Morgan's crew, hardened veterans from the Marianas bases, exchange tense glances. They've stripped the plane of its defensive guns to carry more fire, betting everything on speed and surprise. The target? The heart of Japan's empire, a sprawling maze of wooden houses and shadow factories fueling the war machine. But let's pull back the curtain on how we got here. Rewind to the summer of 1944, when whispers of this super bomber first reached the ears of Japan's high command. In the opulent halls of the Imperial Navy headquarters in Tokyo, Admiral Soyomu Toyoda, successor to the fallen Yamamoto, pores over intelligence reports with his staff. Grainy reconnaissance photos show the B-29 on American runways, enormous, ungainly, like a bloated eagle too heavy to soar. "Look at this lumbering beast," Toyoda scoffs, his voice echoing off polished wood panels. "Our Zeros will dance circles around it. Those Americans think size equals strength? They'll be easy prey for our agile fighters." Laughter ripples through the room, a mix of arrogance and relief. After all, Japan's Mitsubishi A6M Zeros have ruled the Pacific skies, their speed and maneuverability turning dogfights into slaughter. The B-29, with its four massive Wright R3350 engines prone to overheating, seems like a joke, a desperate gamble by a foe running out of ideas. Pilots in the Imperial Japanese Air Service share the mockery. At airfields across Honshu, aces like Captain Saburo Sakai, veterans of Pearl Harbor and Guadalcanal, dismiss the rumors during sake-fueled briefings. A bomber that flies at 30,000 feet? Impossible, Sakai chuckles to his squadron. Even if it gets up there, our Ki-44 Shokis will climb and tear it apart. And those gun turrets? Mere decorations on a flying target. The early sightings confirm their disdain. In June 1944, during the first B-29 raid on Yawata's steel mills, Japanese interceptors swarm but find the bombers too high, their engines straining in the thin air. A few passes, some ineffective bursts from 20mm cannons, and the Americans escape with minimal damage. "See, they flee like cowards," the reports boast back to Tokyo. The high command nods approvingly, convinced the B-29 is a paper tiger, impressive on the ground, but vulnerable in the heavens. But beneath the bravado, cracks begin to form. Scattered intercepts reveal the truth. The B-29's pressurized cabin allows crews to fly unmasked at altitudes where Japanese fighters gasp for oxygen. Its remote-controlled turrets, guided by analog computers, spit .50 caliber fire with deadly precision. But hubris blinds them. Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa, commanding the remnants of the carrier fleet after Leyte Gulf, waves off concerns during strategy sessions. "Let them come. Our divine wind will scatter them." The empire, stretched thin by island-hopping defeats, clings to this narrative of superiority. Factories churn out more Zeros and the new Ki-84 Hayate Frank fighters, designed to counter high-altitude threats, but production lags, fuel shortages bite, and pilot training dwindles to suicide runs. Fast forward to the Marianas, where the American juggernaut awakens. Saipan, Tinian,
Guam, captured at great cost, become fortresses of concrete runways. Under the relentless drive of General Haywood S. Possum Hansel, the 21st Bomber Command assembles its fleet. But results falter. High-altitude precision bombing from China, bases yield little, hampered by weather and logistics. Enter General Curtis LeMay, a cigar-chomping tactician with ice in his veins. Taking command in January 1945, he scraps the old playbook. "We're not hitting hard enough," he growls to his staff at Guam headquarters. "Strip the guns, fly low at night, load up on incendiaries, burn their cities to the ground." It's a radical shift, from surgical strikes to area annihilation. LeMay knows Tokyo's vulnerabilities. Densely packed wooden structures, dry winds, minimal firefighting. Operation Meeting House is born, a code name masking the inferno to come. As the B-29s form up over the Pacific on March 9th, the Japanese air defenses slumber. Radar picks up blips, but alerts are sluggish, fatigue from constant false alarms. Anti-aircraft batteries, manned by weary crews, scan the horizon. In Tokyo, civilians like young factory worker Hiroshi Tanaka retire early, the war's toll etched in their faces. Little do they know, 334 superfortresses are inbound, each carrying tons of napalm and white phosphorus. Pathfinders lead, marking targets with Christmas tree flares. The first bombs fall, igniting scout fires that guide the swarm. Suddenly, the night erupts. Incendiaries cascade like fiery rain, punching through roofs and exploding into jets of flame. Winds gust to 65 knots, fanning the blaze into a roaring tempest. Streets become rivers of fire, the air thick with black smoke and screams. Families flee, clutching children, only to be engulfed. Canals boil, bridges collapse. From his command post, General Korochika Anami, war minister, receives frantic calls. The sky is falling, flames everywhere. But as the first waves depart, the true horror unfolds. What started as mockery in boardrooms now crumbles into terror on the ground. The Empire's arrogance, once a shield, now fuels its own pyre.
The first Pathfinder B-29s streak low over the glittering Sumida River, their bomb bays yawning open under the moonless sky. At 12:08 a.m., the lead aircraft releases its load, bright M47 marker bombs bursting into brilliant white phosphorus flares that drift down like deadly stars. They form a massive glowing X across the heart of Shitamachi, the old downtown district packed with wooden tenements, small factories, and over 1 million souls. The signal is given. Behind them, the main force fans out in individual streams. No tight formations tonight, just relentless waves of silver giants thundering at 5,000 to 9,000 feet. Each superfortress carries up to 7 tons of M69 incendiary clusters, hundreds of napalm-filled bomblets designed to punch through fragile tile roofs and ignite on contact. You can picture the moment the first clusters detonate. A soft pop, then a sudden jet of flaming jelly sprays outward, clinging to everything it touches, tatami mats, paper screens, cedar beams. Within seconds, fires sprout like crimson flowers blooming in the dark. Winds, gusting 45 to 67 miles per hour from the southeast, seize the flames and hurl them forward. What begins as scattered blazes merges into roaring walls of fire, leaping from house to house faster than any man can run. The air itself turns lethal, superheated to nearly 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, melting glass into molten rain and igniting clothing on people still inside their homes. Down below, chaos erupts. Sirens wail too late. Alarms only sound at 12:15 a.m. after the first bombs have fallen. Families burst from sliding doors, clutching infants, elderly parents, whatever they can grab. Streets narrow into bottlenecks as thousands surge toward the river, toward bridges, toward any perceived safety. The Kototoi Bridge becomes a nightmare. A panicked crowd packs the span, shoulder to shoulder, when a fresh wave of incendiaries crashes down. Hundreds burn alive where they stand. Others leap into the boiling canals only to suffocate as oxygen vanishes in the inferno. Survivor Yoshio Matsumoto, just 15 that night, later recalled looking east to see entire districts swallowed in red, his eyelashes scorched shut by morning. The sky was falling, he said,
voice trembling decades later. Japanese fighters scramble, but it's futile. The 10th Air Division's night interceptors, mostly exhausted Ki-45s and a handful of newer types, take off into the smoke-choked darkness. Pilots like those under Captain Saburo Sakai's old squadrons strain against fatigue and fuel shortages, climbing desperately. They spot the low-flying B-29s illuminated by their own fires, silver ghosts against the orange glow. But the altitude is wrong. The bombers hug the ground where Japanese radar struggles, where searchlights can't lock on, where flak batteries are set too high. Anti-aircraft guns bark wildly, shells exploding far above the streaking superfortresses. A few night fighters manage passes, but the stripped-down B-29s, guts lightened by removing all but tail guns, fly faster, evade easier. No B-29 falls to fighters that night. The defenses, once so confident, shatter against LeMay's brutal innovation. In command bunkers, the High Command watches the unfolding catastrophe in stunned silence. Reports flood in, fires out of control, entire neighborhoods vanishing. Admiral Soemu Toyota, who had sneered at the lumbering B-29s, now receives the grim truth. The Empire's vaunted air defenses, prioritized for the capital, prove woefully unprepared for this low-level night assault. No coordination between radar, searchlights, and fighters. The once mocked bomber has become an unstoppable reaper. As the flames climb higher, fed by the wind, the realization dawns. This is no ordinary raid. This is annihilation. The firestorm rages for hours. Rivers of flame race through alleys, consuming everything in their path. People trapped in foxholes, crude dugouts meant for protection, choke on superheated air or burn where they huddle. Temples and parks, traditional refuges, turn into death traps as crowds jam the gates. Over 100,000 lives end in this single night, bodies charred beyond recognition, many never recovered. The stench of burning flesh drifts upward, sickening even the hardened B-29 crews who don oxygen masks to keep from vomiting. Yet as the last bombers wheel away toward the Pacific dawn, the true reversal sinks in. What began with laughter in Tokyo's war rooms ends in horror on its streets. The arrogance that dismissed the superfortress as a vulnerable giant has been incinerated along with the city. The Empire, already bleeding from island defeats, now faces the flames of its own vulnerability.
Dawn breaks over a smoldering ruin. March 10th, 1945. The sun rises blood red through a pall of black smoke that stretches miles into the sky, blotting out the horizon like a funeral shroud. Where vibrant neighborhoods once stood, only skeletal chimneys and twisted metal remain. The air reeks of charred wood, melted asphalt, and something far worse, the unmistakable odor of burned human flesh that clings to everything. Over 15 square miles of Tokyo lie in ashes, an area larger than Manhattan's business district, reduced to a moonscape of glowing embers. More than 250,000 buildings gone, 1 million people homeless, and the dead, officially tallied in the tens of thousands, but survivor accounts whisper higher, perhaps pushing toward 100,000 souls extinguished in a single night. Bodies lie in twisted heaps along the Sumida River, where desperate crowds had sought refuge, only to be trapped as the water itself turned to steam and boiled. In the Imperial General Headquarters, the mood is one of stunned disbelief turning to grim reckoning. Admiral Soemu Toyota, who had once dismissed the B-29 as a lumbering target ripe for Zero interceptors, now stares at reconnaissance photos showing the devastation. The reports are unrelenting. No effective resistance, minimal bomber losses. Only 14 superfortresses failed to return, most to operational issues rather than fighters or flak. The vaunted might defenses, those 90-odd interceptors scrambled in vain, couldn't climb fast enough, couldn't see through the smoke, couldn't coordinate. Anti-aircraft fire set for higher altitudes barked uselessly into empty sky. The radar chain that had boasted of spotting intruders early, overwhelmed by the low, fast approach. For the first time, the High Command confronts the brutal truth. Their air superiority, once a source of national pride, has evaporated. The B-29, the very machine they mocked as ungainly and vulnerable, has proven itself a harbinger of total destruction.
LeMay, back on Guam, receives the after-action reports with cold satisfaction. Crews describe the view from the cockpit, a sea of fire so intense it created its own weather, updrafts sucking planes upward, turbulence shaking the massive bombers like leaves in a storm. Some pilots, sickened by the stench rising through the open bomb bays, don oxygen masks to avoid retching. Yet the mission is deemed a resounding success. LeMay's gamble, stripping the aircraft of nearly all defensive armament to pack more incendiaries, flying low at night in loose streams, has paid off beyond expectation. The Firestorm, fueled by 65-knot winds and the tinder-dry wooden city, did the rest. In his own words, years later, he would reflect on the moral weight. If we'd lost the war, I'd have been tried as a war criminal. But victory forgives much, and this raid marks the pivot. From here, firebombing becomes doctrine. Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, cities fall one after another in the following weeks, each raid refining the horror. On the ground, the reversal is visceral. Civilians who once believed in the invincibility of their homeland now face the reality of vulnerability. Survivor Yoshio Matsumoto, 15 years old that night, emerges from hiding to find his world erased. His eyelashes scorched shut, he wanders through the ash, unable to open his eyes fully. Others, like young Haruyo Nihei, recall the terror of flames leaping house to house, the screams echoing as entire families perished in shelters turned ovens. The government tries to spin it. Propaganda broadcasts decry American atrocities, call for greater resolve, but the cracks show. Morale plummets. Absenteeism in factories soars. The emperor's advisors begin to whisper of the unthinkable. Perhaps the war cannot be won. In the Marianas, the air crews rest, exhausted but resolute. Major Robert Morgan and his men know what they've unleashed. The mockery from Japanese admirals, once echoing in strategy rooms, has been answered with fire. The B-29, derided as a bloated, slow target, has become the instrument of judgment. Arrogance has met its match in flame and wind, transforming disbelief into dread. The Empire, long convinced of its divine destiny, now stares into the abyss of its own possible end. Yet the story isn't over. This single night sets the stage for what comes next. More cities, more firestorms, and ultimately, the mushroom clouds that would force surrender. The reversal is complete, from laughter in the halls of power to ashes on the streets below.
The ashes still smolder weeks later, a gray blanket over what was once the beating heart of the Empire. Emperor Hirohito, rarely venturing beyond the palace grounds, orders a personal inspection. In late March 1945, his motorcade winds through the devastation, charred ruins stretching as far as the eye can see, the air thick with the lingering smell of death and destruction. He gazes silently from the car window at the skeletal remains of homes, schools, temples. No grand speeches, no public outrage, just a quiet, profound shock etched into the Imperial face. Those close to him later whisper that this moment, more than any battlefield defeat, shakes the Emperor's resolve. The divine wind they had counted on? Absent. The homeland, once untouchable, now burns like tinder. In the war rooms, the reversal completes itself. Admiral Soamu Toyoda, who had once laughed off the B-29 as a bloated, easy target for agile Zeros, now faces the stark evidence. Post-raid interrogations and his own later reflections reveal a man grappling with the shift. The high-altitude precision strikes had been dismissed, but this low-level fire assault bypassed every defense layer. Radar warnings came too late. Night fighters couldn't engage effectively in the smoke. The wind, those merciless 65-knot gusts, turned a raid into a holocaust. Toyota and his staff acknowledge in hushed tones what pilots and civilians already know. The mockery has been incinerated. The Superfortress, derided as vulnerable, has proven unstoppable when wielded with ruthless ingenuity. LeMay's doctrine, low, fast, incendiary, exploits Japan's wooden cities, dense population, and overstretched resources.
What was once arrogance in strategy sessions becomes quiet dread. If Tokyo can fall this way, so can the rest. The psychological wound cuts deeper than the physical scars. Survivors like young Shizuko Nishio, only 6 that night, carry the terror for life. Decades later, footage of distant conflicts still triggers shaking knees and tears. The roar of planes, the red sky, the screams echoing in memory. Others, like 16-year-old Tsukiyama Minoru, recall the instant the night turned to day, the whoosh of falling fire, the family shelter becoming a tomb for neighbors. Morale collapses across the capital. Factories grind to a halt as workers flee, absenteeism soars, and the propaganda machine falters. For the first time, ordinary citizens whisper the unspeakable. The war might be lost. The government calls for greater resolve, but the fire has burned away illusions of invincibility. LeMay, monitoring from Guam, sees the pattern emerge. One raid becomes many. Nagoya follows in March, then Osaka, Kobe, Yokohama, each firestorm refining the technique, each claiming tens of thousands more. The 21st Bomber Command drops over 160,000 tons of incendiaries by war's end, reducing 40% of Japan's urban areas to ash. Civilian deaths mount to 300,000 or more, dwarfing other campaigns. LeMay himself reflects later on the moral calculus, ending the war swiftly to save American lives, even at this terrible cost. But for the Japanese High Command, the message is unmistakable. The Emperor's tour of the ruins, the mounting losses, the relentless flames, all converge toward the inevitable. By summer 1945, the stage is set. The firebombing campaign has broken the spirit, softened the resolve, and paved the way for what comes next. When the mushroom clouds rise over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August, the decision to surrender is not born solely from atomic terror, but from the cumulative horror of months of fire raining from the sky. The laughter of Admirals in 1944 no more. In its place, silence, ashes, and the bitter realization that arrogance had invited doom. The empire falls, not with a bang, but with the crackle of endless flame.